One of the pieces of advice that I give to my students is to practice consistently. And I realized that I should help out with that by producing daily content. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. This new series is called Reason Prep Daily. I will be producing a free video on YouTube every day until the foreseeable future. The topic will alternate from between the SAT, the new SAT, the old SAT, the ACT, the subject tests, among other topics, but you should expect to see a video every single day. So to start, let's talk about reading. This is the big question that I get all the time, and I got a couple questions that I got from a member of Reason Prep that they wanted some advice and feedback on. So I'm going to do these questions here. This is about subtle short passage questions. These are both ranked 4 out of 5 in difficulty. These tricky reading questions that you got to look very closely to find those answers. So what I want you to do is pause the video right now and try these questions on your own. And then when you're done, we'll talk about them. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so you finished the questions. Let me give you the answers. We've got E and D. How'd you do? Well, let's go ahead and talk about these 2 questions. So the first thing I do when I look at a short passage section in the reading is I look at the questions and I see if there's anything really specific. Now, 11 mentions Walden, so this might be a keyword type question where it's probably going to reference something in these last lines, perhaps, because that's where the author mentions Walden. Here, we're talking about the movement in line 3. However, it does say in the question, the passage as a whole. So that would indicate that's probably more of a general question than anything else. So there's nothing really specific here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this passage. So let's do that. As with so many endeavors, nature writing has become increasingly specialized. There's been a generally healthy movement from the anthropocentric to the biocentric, from human-focused to world-focused, a movement that Thoreau anticipated late in his life with his more scientific writing. This movement has led to some fine objective writing, but has also led to many dull pages, exhaustive and occasionally exhausting works. The problem is that readers are human beings and therefore naturally interested in the human. The driving youthful question that enlivened Thoreau's Walden, how to live, has been all but forgotten. So how would the author most likely characterize Walden? So what we do, before we go to the choices, we try to come up with our own answer, our own idea of what this could be. So what does the author say? Well, the author is making this point in the passage that the way nature writing has gone, it's moved away from interest in the human, right? They use this fancy word here, anthropocentric or anthropocentric. Anthro means human, and centric means centered, right? So human-centered, to the biocentric. So this would be as they say, the world focused. They pretty much define the words here, right? Human focused to world focused. So nature writing has moved away from the humans focus to the world focus. And Walden, which had this question, how to live, that mission, how to live, focus on the human, has been lost in favor of this focus on the world. So how would the author characterize Walden? Probably something to do with more focused on people. Would he characterize Walden as dry and boring? No. There's no sense here that there's anything negative about Walden. Appropriately scientific? No, there's no mention that Walden is scientific. You need to see evidence for B directly in the passage about Walden. Long and exhausting to read. Be very careful. They mention exhausting here, but they're talking about the other works. They're not talking about Walden here. So go ahead and get rid of C. More about literature than people. This is an example of an opposite answer choice. It's actually the opposite, right? Walden is about people, not about the world as much. So we can get rid of D. And we come to our answer, which is E, fundamentally human-centered. Absolutely, right? That's the point of this, that Walden and the nature writing that's characterized by what Walden was all about humans. It's anthropocentric. It's the human-focused versus the biocentric, the world-focused. So we can get that from these lines and these beginning lines here, and E is the best answer. The passage as a whole best supports which statement about the movement? So the movement, again, was the focus from the human to the world-focused and all the consequences of that. So A, it had surprisingly little impact on readers. Did it say that? Not really. If anything, it had an impact, which is why this writer is talking about it. So A is not supported. B, it would have dismayed Thoreau. Maybe, but it has to say that specifically. Does it say anywhere Thoreau wouldn't have liked what has happened here? It's kind of implied, maybe, but it's too shaky. There's not enough textual evidence to support something like B. How about C? It vastly improved the genre of nature writing. If anything, just the opposite, because the author of this paragraph is a little bit worried or skeptical of this movement from the human focused to the world focused. And actually, now that I read this part, it says that Thoreau anticipated the movement discussed here with his more scientific writing. So maybe Thoreau, going back to B, wouldn't have dismayed him at all. Maybe he was pushing it in that direction anyway. But going back to C, no, they don't mention anything specifically like that it vastly improved. This is an extreme word right here as well. D, it involved losses as well as gains. So a lot of people look at this choice and they'll say, wow, that's really general. Like, what does it have to do with what happened in the passage, right? It's really general. But as you often see on reading questions, the general choice is typically the right one. And you can see why here. Where in the passage does it say that this movement involves losses as well as gains? Well, it said here, this movement has led to some fine objective writing, so a positive, but it has also led to many dull pages, exhaustive, and occasionally exhausting works. Notice earlier it says there has been a generally healthy movement from the anthropocentric to the biocentric, right? It's produced some fine writing, but at the same time, we've got dull pages. We've lost this interest in the human. So there's indeed losses and gains. We've lost the interest in the human-focused world, but we've gained some new writing, and it's a generally healthy move. So actually D, even though it's general, maps directly onto these green portions of the passage. E, it was a regrettable development, too negative. There is some positive mentioned in this paragraph, so E is too negative and C is too positive, right? So you can see C and E as being too extreme in one direction or the other. We're looking for something like D, which is more general. To learn more about Reason Prep's SAT, SAT subject test, and ACT video courses, go to reasonprep.com/enroll, and you can find the link in the description below the video.